I like to have two layers. One is the original and then one is my edited one. So if you are on your background layer, which that is your basic first layer, you're always going to start with one layer. Press Command J, you'll get a background copy. And that's my edited, or that's where I edit. So that's actually what layer 1 is a background copy. Or you can press Control on a Mac, Control click, and you can press Duplicate Layer. I like to turn this layer off and check my before and after. And this is how I decide if I'm editing too much or just, to look back and see the progress that I've made. So I see right here on this bow that it got a little messed up, so I need to go back in, Shift Command X on a Mac. Oops, wrong layer. Make sure you're selecting the right layer because you'll mess yourself up working the wrong layer. And you'll have to go back and alright. There we go. Fixed that bow. It's not quite there yet, so I'm gonna go back in one more time. There we go. See, just very subtle differences, just to make it look as perfect as it can. Then I'm seeing down here, it could use a little more fixing. So again, liquify tool. I'm going to bring this part up just a little bit so it looks more even with the other side. Okay, there we go, that's just where I want it to be. So this little black thing right here, somehow the metallic got through and this is not where I want it to look. So where I'm going to start is, this is supposed to be matte black lipstick. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool by pressing I, selecting the color that's there, like right here in the middle, and then press B to go to my brush tool over here, and then making sure the opacity is down. I like to bring it in subtly, not all at once. Making sure my hardness is low. I'm going to start filling this in, and actually I think I can bump up my opacity a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to 39%. And I'm realizing that this color is not the right color. So sometimes what happens is, see down here, this is where your colors are. Sometimes you select the color and you accidentally pick your background color or your foreground color. So I don't know if you can really tell, but this black is more warm toned and this black is more cool toned. I'm pretty sure the cool tone black that I was going for ended up in my background color. So I'm either going to press X or go to this little button right here and it'll switch between colors here. I'll do it more dramatically to show you. Press this and it'll switch. So this is the color that your brush will use. So I want it to use this color. So I'm going to press X and it'll bring my background color to my foreground color, and that's the color that my brush will use. And there we go, that's the color that I wanted. I'm going to pick another color. Okay, this is looking very blurry for my taste. So I'm going to go back in with a sharpening tool and I'm going to sharpen that up. I see how it looks grainy? I kind of want that. But when it gets too grainy, I like to go in with my healing brush tool by pressing J and then just covering up the parts that, oh, my laptop is hot, covering up the parts that are too grainy. Alright, now another trick that I do, this line is not perfectly straight and I want it to be perfectly straight. So what I'm going to do is, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to continue with my healing brush tool and I'm going to run it along the edge of the line, and then every so often it'll correct the line to become more straight. See? It's working. Do it on this side. Remember, anytime you don't like something, just Command Z right away. Alright, so I think that's where I want it to be. So it doesn't matter if it right away it's wavy, just as long as the line itself is like a nice big straight wavy and not just like little tiny bumps. You can go back into your liquify tool, zoom in, and pucker it a little bit so that it's a sharper line. And back to my warp tool, and then I'm going to make this line more straight. And once you use this more, you'll get the hang of how big and how small you need to make your brush. So when I'm changing angles of something, because see how this is at like a maybe 80-degree angle, so I will make my brush smaller and then larger for the rest of it. So like you got to be really careful with that part because you don't want it to look smudged, which happens a lot. And see how that's starting to look like it's dragged over? I'm going to fix that in a second. So as long as it's not too much of a drag, you can fix that. I'm constantly making the brush larger and smaller, like I'm not even aware of it sometimes, but doing this tutorial, it's making me realize how often I actually change the size of my brush. Just constant back and forth, just use your judgment, and it'll come more natural to you as you get more used to this. Alright. And yeah, and don't forget to zoom out frequently so that you're not working too close up in your picture, because you might get lost being so close that once you zoom out it doesn't look how you thought it would. See how this line is crooked? So I'm going to take this big thing, make this brush big, and then scooch it. Very small changes sometimes, but very necessary. And fix it so that it's more aligned. There we go. See what I'm doing here? This is all just back and forth, back and forth. It's not just you fix it once and it's done. You gotta keep going back and forth, keep finagling until it's where you want it to be. And I am a perfectionist, so I need my pictures to look as perfect as possible. Always improving though. Always room for improvement, I mean. Alright, now let's look at before and after. See? So, looking at it now, I'm seeing this doesn't look completely natural, and I need it to look more natural. So, I'm going to make this look more like it's rounded with the lip. So, taking this darker shade with my eyedropper tool, make sure my opacity is a little lower. I'm just going to fill in over here. Make it look more even. There we go. Zooming out frequently. Then I'm going to take this lighter color right here in the center, and I'm going to bring it. Alright. And then back with the dark color and fixing it up here. So now that looks more with the rest of the lip. So remember when I was dragging this and you could see that it was a little pulled over here. It doesn't look that terrible, but maybe like over here, it looks a little pulled. So I'm going to go back to my healing brush tool, my favorite tool, and I'm just going to heal over that part. Again, using your judgment. You want to heal on top of those pulls. It just takes them away. I'm also going in here and fixing any parts that don't look very natural. This is to my liking. Now looking at the big picture, and I'm seeing this is bowing out slightly more than I want it to, so back to the liquify tool. Be very careful not to alter the other side. I just want this side. So bringing that in just a little bit. See how, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been undoing many times. And that's just a fact of life. Like, you're going to do something that doesn't look like you thought, and just quickly undo it. Okay. There we go. That looks good. See? So this is a matte shade over a shimmer shade, and that matte is as matte. We don't want to fool everyone, but this is how matte it actually gets, like this particular lipstick. And I also think I want to keep some of these shimmery spots down here, even though you can tell I have a little bit of hairs down here. I just like the look of it because you can see how sparkly they are. Alright. I'm going to go back in with my Jade healing brush tool. Alright, so we're pretty much where we want to be right now, before and after. I love looking at many times because it helps me to see where I've come from and where I'm going. Something that I didn't go through with you is color levels. We'll do this on the regular background image. I'm going to press Command J and I'm going to make a copy. We're just going to go look at that layer, and I'm going to press Command L for my levels. You can also do it by going here, and levels are right here. So I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. See, this does the highlights, this does the medium tones, and this does the shadows. So I'm actually going to undo everything I just did and bring it back. Okay, so I want the overall image to look a little brighter. So I'm going to take this medium one and bring the brightness up a little. See how this right here is on the 0 and it doesn't start to go up until like later over here? That usually is a sign that there are no darks in the image, like true darks. So not always, don't take my word for it, but that's just what I've learned. I just want to bring it so it's at least right here on the edge of the curve. So this is just plain old lights and darks. I'm going to go into blue, which is my favorite because I prefer using making my pictures a little more blue. So usually I go to the mid-tone and just a little bit. I'm just going to nudge it to the left a little. Oops, somehow it went away. What happened? Oh, here it is. And then over here, just just a tiny bit of blue. And then I'm seeing the colors look a little red. So I'm going to go into red and see, this is the dark tones. See, like there's like not one formula that you can do for this. So one trick that I personally have felt that worked for me is if you see that your picture is a little too much of one color, red, green, or blue, you go to that color. If there's too much red, go to red, and then go here to the darks and then bump that up. It'll bring more green into the picture, the opposite of red. And over here too, if you go to the right, you're going to get more green. If you go to the left, you're going to get more red. Look, see, so if I go left, more red. Right, you get more green. So I just bump it up just a smidge. And then here's the highlight. We're going to go left to bring more red back into the image. Might seem redundant to go back and forth like that, but I have found that going back and forth like that really helps you to get a nice, well-rounded view of the image, of how the color should be. Alright, now I'm going to go back to my regular RGB, bump that up, go back and forth a little bit, and bring some more yellow back in, some more blue. Alright, and I'm overall happy with this. There we go, more darkness. And there we go. See? When you go back, you realize there was a big yellow stain over the whole thing. That was the color, but this looks more true to the actual colors. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need your colors to look as true as possible. So I'm just going to delete that layer because I already adjusted my levels for this one. And let's see what else. Oh, okay. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer right here. And going back to my brushes by pressing B, go over here, and I've downloaded a few brushes. This is the one that I use for my shimmer. Close that up, press D on your keyboard, and you'll get your original colors, black and white. Press X to bring white to the foreground. Go to opacity to bring it up all the way, so that's what we're going to want. And then using my brackets, make the brush the size that you want. And there you go. I don't really like how it turned out. I usually go back and forth with my glitter. And what I like to do with glitter, if it's something like this, it's kind of like even. If you look at it, it's kind of even all throughout. But I want it to be more bright in the center. So what I'll do is keeping the brush exactly where it is. Click. Don't move the mouse pad. Click. Then just using your brackets, make it smaller. Click. Make it even smaller. Click. Smaller. Click. And that way you can get a more pinched, see what the difference is? That's just with this certain brush. I'm sure you could probably find better brushes than me online. I don't even know where I found this. This was just something free that I found online. So your placement of glitter is totally up to you. When you place glitter, you want to make sure it's at the edge of places that look natural. I am still learning placement of glitter a lot. I see people who do glitter much better than I do. But from what I'm learning is you want to go to places that are already highlighted and add some refraction. And the hard part is doing it in a spot that it won't be canceled out, because you can't do it here because no one's going to see it. But if you do it down here, see, people will see it. And actually, I'm going to even go back in and this is a lot of back and forth for me. Choose my soft round brush, and I'm going to bring the darkness, oops, lower my opacity. I'm going to bring the darkness up a little bit. There we go. See, why I did that is because there's brightness right here, and this part's dark. So I want this part of the matte lipstick to look dark, and this part to look a little brighter, just because it makes more sense. Alright, so now that I'm done with that, I like to merge my layer down, so control click, scroll down, merge down, and now it's all part of one layer. Before, after. And the last part, you can do this if you want, or you don't have to. If you have more than, you're actually like perfectly fine to delete this layer, but I just like to merge them into one layer by pressing Shift Command E. That'll merge all your layers into one layer. And then to put my watermark on, I think everyone has a different way of doing this, but my personal way is dragging this layer out and then pulling up my watermark layer and then dragging this layer back in. Make sure you press V, or you can go up here. This is your move tool. You're going to just pull it like this. You just click on it and drag, and then it's in your other layer. So then I have to make it fit because I want this watermark to always be in the same exact spot. So I'm going to press either Command T, or you can go to Edit and then Transform, Scale. And then go to Diagonal key, and then see how the watermark disappeared. Just put the artwork behind the watermark. Make sure the watermark is on the top layer, and that's it. Shift Command S, and I'm going to save mine as 154. Make sure it's in a JPEG format. Save, and then make sure you hit preview. That way you can see how large your file is. I like to keep mine as large as I possibly can without hitting 1 megabyte. So for me, it'll be 800 kilobytes, and that'll be a 10 quality. Press OK, and there you go. That's your image. You're done, and you're ready to post. I email mine back to myself, and then onto my phone. I check my phone, and then I download it. But yeah, that's how you do it. This is done. All right. Let me know how you feel about this, if you want me to do more tutorials. I had fun. I hope you did, and I hope this was informative. There's still so much that I could teach you, but if you liked this, let me know, and I'll do more.